are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses of making these shows. And there are many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. And you can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and some other items there with designs made by friends of the show. And you can also please support friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who is the co-host of the show on Saturdays and has her own channel as well. Ricky of the Anything Is Possible podcast, who usually does a paranormal themed show on Sundays, and I join him for those. And Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, which I call into frequently, and the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, and where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, 24/7, online for free. A couple of things to keep in mind here as I continue reading this book from Charles Fort. The views of Charles Fort may not completely be your own or mine, so just be aware of that. If you hear anything that you really don't agree with, that will happen. It's happened to me a couple of times. Also, if there's anything in this book that he talks about that seems mysterious to him, but does not seem that way anymore to us, it could be because these books were written about 100 years ago, so a lot has happened and been possibly figured out through science since then, so that may happen. Also, I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of words and or names of people or places, as it will happen. It's happened before, it'll happen again. And also, it's because words are hard, and also because there are some words in here and names that are not in English. So, further complications there. But let me get back to the paragraph where I was at, that I didn't start in the last episode because I couldn't even see the end of it. And then we'll get back to this here. So, he was talking about strange darknesses and eclipses and things in the past. As to darknesses that have fallen upon vast areas, conventionality is smoke from forest fires. In the U.S. Forest Service Bulletin, number 117, E.G. Plummer gives a list of 18 darknesses that have occurred in the United States and Canada. He is one of the primitives, and this is Fort's words, not mine, but I should say that his dogmatism, there we go, is shaken by vibrations from the new dominant. His difficulty, which he acknowledges, but which he would have disregarded had he written a decade or so earlier, is the profundity of some of these obscurations. He says that mere smokiness cannot account for such, in quotation marks, awe-inspiring dark days, in quotation marks. So he conceives of eddies in the air, concentrating the smoke from forest fires, then in the inconsistency or discord of all quasi-intellection that is striving for consistency or harmony, he tells of the vastness of some of these darknesses. Of course, Mr. Plummer did not really think upon this subject, but one does feel that he might have approximated higher to real thinking than by speaking of concentration and then listing data of enormous area, or the opposite of circumstances of concentration, because of his 19 instances, 9 are set down as covering all of New England. In quasi-existence, everything generates or is part of its own opposite. Every attempt at peace prepares the way for war. All attempts at justice result in injustice in some other respect. So Mr. Plummer's attempt to bring order into his data with the explanation of darkness caused by smoke from forest fires results in such confusion that he ends up by saying that these daytime darknesses have occurred, in quotation marks, often with little or no turbidity of the air near the Earth's surface, in quotation marks, or with no evidence at all of smoke, except that there is almost always a forest fire somewhere. However, of the 18 instances, the only one that I'd bother to contest is the profound darkness in Canada and northern parts of the United States, November 19th, 1819, which we have already considered. Its concomitants: lights in the sky, fall of a black substance, shocks like those of an earthquake. In this instance, the only available forest fire was one to the south of the Ohio River. For all I know, soot from a very great fire south of Ohio might fall in Montreal, Canada, and conceivably, by some freak of reflection, lights from it might be seen in Montreal. But the earthquake is not assimilable with the forest fire. On the other hand, it will soon be our expression that profound darkness, fall of matter from the sky, lights in the sky, and earthquakes are phenomena of the near approach of other worlds to this world. It is such comprehensiveness as contrasted with inclusion of a few factors and disregard for the rest that we call higher approximation to realness or universalness. A darkness of April 17th, 1904, at Wimbledon, England. Wimbledon, there we go, England. Simmons Meteorological Magazine, 39-69. It came from a smokeless region. No rain, no thunder. Lasted 10 minutes. Too dark to go, in quotation marks, even out in the open, in quotation marks. As to darknesses in Great Britain, one thinks of fogs, but in nature, 25-289, there are some observations by Major J. Herschel upon an obscuration in London, January 22nd, 1882, at 10:30 a.m., so great that he could hear persons upon the opposite side of the street, but could not see them, in quotation marks. It was obvious that there was no fog to speak of, in quotation marks. Annual Register, 1857-132. An account by Charles A. Murray, not sure how you say that for sure, British envoy to Persia, of a darkness of May 20th, 1857, that came upon Baghdad, a darkness, quotation marks here, a darkness more intense than ordinary midnight, when neither stars nor moon are visible. After a short time, the black darkness was succeeded by a red, lurid gloom, such as I never saw in any part of the world. Panic seized the whole city. A dense volume of red sand fell, in quotation marks. This matter of sand falling seems to suggest conventional explanation enough, or that a simoon, Simoon, heavily charged with terrestrial sand, had obscured the sun. But Mr. Murray, who says that he had experience with simoons, gives his opinion that, in quotation marks, it cannot have been a simoon, in quotation marks. It is our comprehensiveness now, or this matter of concomitance of darkness, that we are going to capitalize. It is all very complicated and tremendous, and our own treatment can be but impressionistic. But a few of the rudiments of advanced seismology we shall now take up, or the four principal phenomena of another world's close approach to this world. If a large substantial mass, or a superconstruction, should enter this Earth's atmosphere, it is our acceptance that it would sometimes, depending upon velocity, appear luminous, or look like a cloud, or like a cloud with a luminous nucleus. Later, we shall have an expression upon luminosity, different from the luminosity of incandescence that comes upon objects falling from the sky or entering this Earth's atmosphere. Now our expression is that worlds have often come close to this Earth, and that smaller objects, size of a haystack, or size of several dozen skyscrapers, lumped, have often hurtled through this Earth's atmosphere and have been mistaken for clouds because they were enveloped in clouds, or that around something coming from the intense cold of interplanetary space, that is, of some regions, our own suspicion is that other regions are tropical. The moisture of this Earth's atmosphere would condense into a cloud-like appearance around it. In Nature 20-121, there is an account by Mr. S.W. Clifton, collector of customs at Fremantle, Western Australia, sent to the Melbourne Observatory. A clear day, appearance of a small black cloud, moving not very swiftly, bursting into a ball of fire of the apparent size of the moon, or that something with the velocity of an ordinary meteorite could not collect vapor around it, but that slower moving objects, speed of a railway train, say, may. Okay. The clouds of tornadoes have so often been described as if they were solid objects that I now accept that sometimes they are, that some so-called tornadoes are objects hurtling through this Earth's atmosphere, not only generating disturbances by their sections, but crushing with their bulk all things in their way, rising and falling, and finally disappearing, demonstrating that gravitation is not the power that the primitives think it is. I don't like that word, primitives, but anyway. If an object moving at relatively low velocity be not pulled to this Earth, or being so momentarily affected, bounds away. Excuse me. Let's see here. One moment. Okay. In Finley's reports on the character of 600 tornadoes, very suggestive bits of description occur. In quotation marks, cloud bounded along the earth like a ball, in quotation marks, or that it was no meteorological phenomenon, but something very much like a huge solid ball that was bounding along, crushing and carrying with it everything within its field. In quotation marks, cloud bounded along, coming to the earth every 800 or 1,000 yards, in quotation marks. Here's an interesting bit that I got somewhere else. I offer it as a datum in superbiology, which, however, is a branch of advanced science that I'll not take up, restricting to things indefinitely called objects, in quotation marks. And then quotation marks again. The tornado came wriggling, jumping, whirling like a great green snake, darting out a score of glistening fangs, in quotation marks. Though it's interesting, I think that's sensational myself. It may be that vast green snakes sometimes rush past this earth, taking a swift bite wherever they can, but as I say, that's a super biologic phenomenon. I love how he's saying that this one thing seems crazy, but that other thing that doesn't seem so crazy. It just cracks me up. And people do that. I'm not picking on him for that. I'm just saying this is a common. Everyone has different levels of what seems acceptable to them and what does not. And now in pointing that out, I lost my spot. So let's see here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Finley gives dozens of instances of tornado clouds that seem to me more like solid things, swathed in clouds, than clouds. He notes that in the tornado at Americus, Georgia, July 18th, 1881, a strange sulfurous vapor was emitted from the cloud, in quotation marks there. In many instances, objects or meteoritic stones that have come from this Earth's externality have had a sulfurous odor. Why a wind effect should be sulfurous is not clear. That a vast object from external regions should be sulfurous is in line with many data. This phenomenon is described in the monthly weather review, July 1881, as, in quotation marks, a strange sulfurous vapor, burning and sickening all who approached close enough to breathe it, in quotation marks. The conventional explanation of tornadoes as wind effects, which we do not deny in some cases, some instances, is so strong in the United States that it is better to look elsewhere for an account of an object that has hurtled through this Earth's atmosphere, rising and falling and defying this Earth's gravitation. Nature 7-112. That according to a correspondent to the Birmingham Morning News, the people living near King's Sutton, Banbury, saw about 1 o'clock, December 7th, 1872, something like a haycock hurtling through the air. Like a meteor, it was accompanied by fire and a dense smoke, and made a noise like that of a railway train. How long is the rest of this? So we are at that point again where it's a long paragraph. We're actually in the middle of it, but we'll stop there. So I'm wondering about sort of tornadoes and all that. I'm wondering if that's more of things that have been figured out more in recent years, and so maybe they're not so anomalous. So that could be one of those cases. I don't know. The darkness and then the darknesses are really fascinating to me. And the ones that don't seem that seem to align with any kind of eclipse. That's a fascinating idea to me. Excuse me. So we will continue this, obviously, in the next part of the series here. I think we have like maybe 10 more chapters to go in this book, and then we'll get on to the next one in the series. Well, not series exactly, but the next one has books that he wrote on these topics. So that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.